That's 4 albums in Tales of the Vinyls, the very last episode, episode number 13. What a number to go out on. And what's the deal with that? Why are we ending Tales of the Vinyls? Well, if you remember, Tales of the Vinyls is a little video series I've been doing for obviously 13 episodes, where I'm talking about albums that relate to Sterbhaus in one way or another. It has to be, something that inspired us. It can be something that just has a neat story tied to it. Now, Sterbhaus is kind of dead. We released our last album, we released our last video, and this will, I kind of need to wrap things up, actually. Now, I did plan on having a lot more episodes than these 13, and what albums those were supposed to be about, you have to find out at the end of this episode. Now, as you've noticed, we're going to be talking about the Sterbhaus vinyls, and wow, there are a lot of stories. I expect this episode to be very, very long. So what I hope I'm doing after I'm recording this and after I've edited and done all my tweaks and twerks and whatever, I'm going to put down some guidelines regarding timelines in the notes, in the description down below. So if you want to find out about Stockholm Thrashfest, for instance, you just have to sort of navigate to that according to the instructions below. And if you want to find out about videos that never came to be from New Level of Malevolence, there's going to be a section about that. And like I said the last time, I'm kind of improvising this, so let's see where we end up. Now, how do you like that thumb picture? The picture you see when I'm trying to grab your attention and you're supposed to click on it and you're going to see this video. That's what the thumb is. The goat guy hanging out by the fire in a burlesque environment, drinking a glass of red wine with a big chunk of grapes in his groin. Well, it's obviously AI made, and I'm ashamed of that because Sterbhaus, we never used AI stuff, and I felt like I'm not going to fall into that trap. However tempted I might be, I'm not going to do it because I truly want that human touch in the artworks we use. So all the artworks we put out has been made by real people. So why did I choose to make an AI picture when I kind of despise that art or that mishmash of other people's arts, which eventually becomes something that you think you created yourself? You just type a prompt, right? So you certainly didn't create it yourself. That image, hear me go on about absolutely nothing. That image, the goat guy by the fire, it's been in my brain for a very, very long time. By the time we did His for Dead Kids, the demo age of Sterbhaus, actually. And the idea hails from a video game, Brutal Legend. And that video game was a heavy metal video game. You probably know what it is already. I think it was like PlayStation 3 era thingy. And it's Jack Black, and he goes into that's actually a real film, the sequence, of course. The whole game starts with that. He goes into a vinyl store, and way in the back, he sort of digs out this terrific looking vinyl, it's black and it has the Brutal Legend logo. And he folds up that gatefold, much like this gatefold. And in that gatefold space is an awesome fantasy painting. And I always thought that I wanted to steal that idea for Sterbhaus. I wanted to do that, but I always figured that I wanted this sexy goat guy, Sir Nunna's devil sort of character, chilling out and being all sexy and all that. And it stuck with me, but for some reason, we did other artworks. This whole idea kind of didn't fit what we were doing. We didn't print vinyls in the beginning, so that was the whole point of it. Vinyls was still just a distant dream by that time. But it's been with me for quite some time, and since I'm wrapping things up with Sterbhaus right now, I thought, well, why the hell? It's not like I'm going to pay a painting artist, because I kind of wanted that whole art to look like it was painted. It's not going to be like I'm paying some dude to paint that now that the band is no more. So, well, let's see what AI could do for me. And I was a little bit surprised how well that whole AI thing sort of realized my vision.
Okay. Don't say a word. Just keep walking, real casual, okay? Let's do this. I'll show it to you, but you can't tell anybody else where it is, okay? Deal. They keep it way in the back with the really rare stuff. Hey, what's up? How goes it? Good to see you. The kids who work here don't know where it came from, of course, but neither do the old-timers. None of them bought it, so there's no tracking number. As far as they know, it's just always been here. Okay, this is where they usually keep it. Uh-oh. No, did somebody buy it? Oh, man! I would have bought it myself, but I just felt like it was too big, too valuable, like the kind of thing no one man should possess. Yes! Here it is. Okay. You sure you're ready for this? Because what I hold in my hand is not just gonna blow your mind, it's gonna blow your soul. Go ahead. Open it. If you dare.
Let's kickstart this thing. First one certainly is going to be Angels for Breakfast and God for Lunch. The absolutely beautiful vinyl, white vinyl. I think I mentioned this in a previous episode, but there it is. White vinyl and, printed inner sleeves. That looks fantastic as well. I'm sort of messing around with all these things, but I'm not really showing the camera, am I? All right, so there we go. This was by the time we did songs that were about 3 or 4 minutes long, so we could fit them on one album. But by the time we're ending the band, we're obviously doing songs that are about 6 or 17 minutes long. Well, there you are. That's Angels for Breakfast and God for Lunch, the great virginity album of Sterbhaus. You know, you destroy your virginity, your vinyl virginity. And we should probably start there, because that's such a huge deal to actually make your very, very first vinyl. The first time you ever make a physical copy of your music is such a huge, momentous thing, you know. I don't know if it applies anymore, really. You have to tell me. I mean, if you're doing music at a young age today and putting it out, I suppose it's all mostly streamed. But for me, it was like the biggest thing ever to put out music on CD the first time around. The first time I put out music on CD was on this Elvira Madigan album, and I paid for this. Cost a fortune back then for some stupid reason. It's around 2000 or 1999. Sounds terrible, this album, because I didn't know what mastering was. Yes. Black Lodge later reissued that, and we remastered it completely. I actually remixed the whole album. Yeah. So the Black Lodge version is remixed. Anyway, it's not supposed to be that much about that, but I mean, the first time you release something as a musician is you can't believe your eyes, your ears, and holding something like this for the first time. So this was a dream come true for each and every one of us in the band. Now we can talk a lot about the art, because look at this. Here you got the vinyl artwork, and there you got the CD artwork. And they're not really kind of the same. A little bit the same. No, it's basically the same image, but they are really different. And there's a good reason for that. Because when we released this album the first time around, that was in 2013. This album was released later on. We sort of got hold of this artist, Gyula Havancak. Terrific guy, and you know his stuff certainly from bands like Annihilator, Gravedigger, Destruction, just to count a few. An amazing portfolio. And I think Simon, the guitarist, he found out about this artist due to an artwork with a band called Jungle Rot. And we were really looking for someone to do artwork for us, and we had no clue who to hire. But anyway, we finally got hold of him, and he was on board with this. I sent him a sketch. And he was like, yeah, that looks cool. I got this other idea. And he started describing what he thought would be an awesome album cover. And it sounded pretty nice. It was supposed to be some bloated dude in an alley with having just eaten an angel or God or whatever. And you could see his huge belly and it was shining and all this stuff. And it was like, well, it sounds pretty cool. Let's see a sketch of it. But I don't think he ever did one. So he started fooling around with my sketch a little bit. Now, I asked Gyula if it was okay to show the sketches, the working sketches. And he said yes. So, but remember, I mean, these are working sketches. So this is what artists fool around with to show the client, oh, like, are we on the right track now? And then they start working with the details, and it turns out to be a terrific artwork after a while. But usually these first sketches look kind of funny. And the first sketch, certainly, which is the first one I'm going to show you now, that one was pretty far off from what we wanted. And we said, oh, we want the skeleton guy to be all mean and muscular, even though he's a skeleton.
Oh, I got a list of things I've got to do. It starts with this, remembering all of you. All my day-to-day ain't stays the same. And I wish for death for all who remain in a world I thought I knew so well. In a hollow, mellow, evil cell.
When we did this one, and we signed that off in 2013 or 12 or something like that, probably, because I think we finished the album pretty early, but it took a while for us to release it. When it was time for us to release this one, he didn't really have the original files, all the original files. So it was like, but I'm going to fix it for you, he said. And so we did. And the fact is, I kind of like this one better. So it's a happy disaster, so to speak, that the original artwork wasn't all intact. I don't think Gyula actually liked this artwork that much on a personal level. He didn't seem too excited about it. And the ironic thing is, by the time we were doing that album, this great tome of Swedish heavy metal was being made. And it's basically covers, it is exactly what it says it is. It's the heaviest encyclopedia of Swedish hard rock and heavy metal ever. And it's written and collected and it's a huge journalistic undertaking by Janne Stark. And he was, I was in contact with him during this period because he was collecting information about Elvira Madigan and actually Sterbhaus as well. And from all the Swedish bands, because every single band up until this time is in this book. And the funny thing is, if you sort of go to the end of this, it's a heavy one. Let's see if you can see this. Somewhere here. That's the author's, Janne Stark's, personal top 5 favorite album covers. And you got Sterbhaus, Angels for Breakfast and God for Lunch in there. Of all the albums ever released by a Swedish band, we apparently made a top 5 personal list of the author himself. So that's for you, Gyula, who kind of disbelieved your own artwork. I don't know how much more we can talk about the artwork. Actually, you can talk about the artwork forever. Thing is, I've been sort of involved in basically everything we've created artwork-wise. I'm not saying this to rub myself the right way, but it's a fact. I'm doing the web designs, I'm doing the merchandise, and I'm doing basically most everything, apart from the imagery, sometimes like this. Now, we got, I don't know how interesting this is, but let's just include that, because I'm going to be showing some other discarded artworks for the other albums later on when we get to them. And the artworks that Gyula did for this was terrific, so I didn't have to do much about that. But the labels here weren't really what I envisioned, so I started doing my own labels, and this isn't a label I've done myself. And it was funny to sort of check out what I had created but decided not to use. And to be honest, I think some of them would probably look better. So if I'm doing this correctly, you probably see something spinning on your screen right now. So those are the labels that I kind of didn't use, but it looks nice as it is. Now, let's talk a little bit about the dude here, because this is the first time this iron skeleton with a bunch of tentacles, oily tentacles, pop up. And we used this skeleton on stage. If you ever saw us during this period, we had two huge metal skeletons on stage, and they were called Paule and Bloomberg. We were trying to come up with cool names, and it was impossible. And Simon, the name-dropping dude that he was, it just said Paule and Bloomberg, and that's what they were called. So the idea was basically to have this character on all our album arts from there on. And we certainly did it, of course, from the album after that, which is the magnificent New Level of Malevolence. We're not going to talk about that album quite yet, but I mean, it's obviously the same character. The idea was to have it for the rest of the albums as well, but I mean, things change, times change. We started to disintegrate as a band, and well, I've kind of figured that there were a lot of other ways to have terrific album arts for us. But anyway, we have those two huge skeletons, and actually that's one of the skeletons. We are torching it at the end of the Whippersnapper video. So there it is. It's burning, happily burning, and it marks the end of Sterbhaus. Now, the videos we did for this album, I think we should probably recap a little bit with videos for each album, because, it's worth it. We did Insecticide in Chile, and we did Frog Boiler in Rosersberg, and then we did Absolutely Do Not Die all over Stockholm. And this is a collage. College.
More helmets on the way, you look your gimmicks, lay your shitty ups. I don't shout a shadow hell, with first grade blue deliverer.
Forgot about this, but in a previous episode of Tales of the Vinyls, I'm mentioning a song that never ended up on Angels for Breakfast and God for Lunch that was called To the Death. That song kind of came from Ministry, but then was sort of evaporated back into Ministry, and also became Project Satan. And if you want to hear that story, you should probably check out the previous episode that story is featured in. Now, when I recorded that, I had no idea that I actually had some sort of weird mix lying around for that song. So I was a little bit surprised after a few weeks when I was, tidying up my files on my computer. And I was like, man, this is actually To the Death. So we're going to listen to the Death. But before we do, and this is really important, the last episode, I'm just referring to old episodes all the time, but the last episode with Tales of the Vinyl was about Shining, and in the end of that episode, I put a pre-production demo of Death by Wolf, and that sounds terrific. It's professionally mixed and all that. This is certainly not professionally mixed, and I'm including this just to show you how pre-production demos sometimes can sound as well when you're writing music. And it's almost like it sounds a little bit horrendous. There's no bass on it, and it's programmed drums. And the vocals, I'm just basically sitting by the desk in front of the screen and just doing stuff with my mouth to remember what we're doing. But if you find it excruciating, jump forward like 3 minutes or something like that. I find this really interesting to listen to because you hear the parts that went into Ministry and Project Satan, and you hear something very rough and very personal for a band like Sterbhaus, and it usually is never heard by anybody. Now I tried to tidy up this a little bit, but again, take it for what it is. And if you think it's horrible, then you are forgiven.
Everyone that died has lived a life. To the death and to the death, I'll take my last breath. No one can die before me. And then to the death, the ghost will lead the crowd. To the death, the crown upon the ground. To the death, the when the grass is getting done, he will feel eat. To the death. To the death, walk with legs and work to the death and to the death. To the death, the ghost will eat the crowd. To the death, that grows upon the ground. To the death, and when the grass is dead and gone, he will still eat. To the death.
Now, before we head on to the mighty new level of Malevolence, I want to do a detour, and we're going to be talking about Stockholm Thrashfest. Now, what is Stockholm Thrashfest, you say? Well, I'm going to tell you what it is, or what it was. Because in 2009, it sounds like it was a festival or something like that, and probably said it was a festival a couple of times, but it was more like an evening with a bunch of bands playing. And the idea was basically that, Stockholm bands were really having a tough time finding venues to play. We had to play in cellars and shit. And it was, the mid-sized bands that were on the same label as I was previously with Elvira Madigan, they didn't even play, many of them, because there were no places to play. So I came up with the idea that, okay, if we go together, some bands, and we ourselves work for this, and we sell the tickets to our buddies and everyone, and if we can ensure a certain attendance, then we can book a decent venue. And we certainly did. We booked Sthlm, which is this huge, almost ancient castle-like place to play in Stockholm. And we were 4 bands. And I'm going to show you the t-shirts because they still remain. There you got Stockholm Thrashfest 2009. And by the way, this was by the time Sterbhaus was kind of figuring out that maybe we didn't want to be a joke band anymore. So, and that started the frustration for me because it was, okay, we didn't want to be a joke band, but how the hell are we going to come out of that little box, and start playing at decent venues? So I figured, that the only way to do that was to make something yourself. And here you got the lineup. The first time it was Rehearsal. It was Constructed. It was Scarpoint, a band that actually, at least due to the drummer, this whole thing was possible. I have to say, because he was vital in getting a lot of the people on board that we needed. And it was, of course, Sterbhaus, and we were the small band here. And 2009, this whole thing was absolutely terrific, and we all met, all the bands, and we worked for this, and it was a absolutely great evening. So, of course, it was like, all right, we're going to do this a second time. And so 2010, we got Stockholm Thrashfest again, and here's the lineup then. Now, by this time, of course, you can see there's a lot more bands. We've got Bible Black, which is actually the band of King Diamond guitarist Mike Weed. And you got FKU and this ending. The thing is, what was so great about the first time, it didn't happen the second time. We didn't meet up, have a couple of beers and go up, put up posters. So I got a little bit disappointed. Boo-hoo. I took a quite financial heavy blow due to that, because bands weren't really selling their tickets. They didn't bother much about that. I hate talking about finances. That's super boring. But that's the reason it didn't happen the next year. Now I say all the bands. That's not really true. Sterbhaus sold by far the most tickets, and it wasn't due to me. That's why we sort of jumped from the last slot up quite a bit. And this ending was actually a band that really looked at this event like something they could have wanted to work for and could use. They actually released a live album from this show quite recently. It's like 6 months or a year ago, something like that. Terrific. Now, I'm saying this is all negative. It certainly wasn't, because in this crowd was this German dude who saw our show, Sterbhaus show, and he said that his brother was a promoter in Bremen, so he got us together with that promoter in Germany. And that was actually the starting point of everything decent that happened with Sterbhaus since. So the idea with Stockholm Thrashfest was to have something to help Sterbhaus establish themselves, and it certainly did. So we got the shows, at Rockharts and Way of Darkness. Those were shows that our promoter got us, and it was all thanks to this Stockholm Thrashfest thingy. Stockholm Thrashfest 2009 and 2010. Nothing happened in 2011 because I couldn't afford it. But what happened was I met this terrific guy called Fredrik Svensson. He was doing a lot of shows in Stockholm, and especially at a pub, which was quite a large pub, Copperfields. And I distinctly recall going there. He wasn't just having heavy metal bands. He was having most every genre, but it was really tough for metal bands to play in Stockholm. And he had this metal evening, and some buddies of mine played there, so I went to see that. And then I met him, and I told him, like, yeah, you got something really nice going here. If you focus a lot on heavy metal, and just harder music in general, you're going to have a monopoly in Stockholm regarding this. And he was like, I'm not sure if that's the thing that kickstarted it, but Copperfields became this go-to place where there was a lot of heavy metal. Why am I saying heavy metal all the time? A lot of metal, a lot of harder bands, and it was always free admittance, so it was great to go there and drink beer. And it almost became this sort of semi-subculture to go to Copperfields. A lot of people loved it. And eventually he had to move out from there, sadly. Now, Fredrik Svensson and I kind of started doing a few shows together. It was mostly him, I suppose. He was the guy with a venue and the PA system. And I was the one with the heart of metal. And we did something called Stockholm Thrash Month. That was one band each weekend. And we played there. We headlined once Protector, the kind of semi-legendary German thrash band that's Stockholm-based these days. Now in 2013, Stockholm Thrashfest kind of happened again, but it wasn't at Nalen. Nalen hated us by the time we did it the second time, in 2010. 2009, they loved us. And apparently we did something wrong. We were kind of welcome back in 2010, but it was excruciating to work with Nolan in 2010, so I didn't want to end up there again. We played at Brygghuset. This was the event. This was the t-shirt. And it was this was the lineup. Here you got Sthlm. I think it was maybe one of their last shows. Did you see me trying to sort of fit underneath my arm here? Yeah, I don't know if this is good. Let's do it like this. Yeah, there we go. So we got Sthlm, you got Sterbhaus. We're like second on the set list right now. Wow, what a career. And we got Virgus, and for all you Swedes, you can try to spell that backwards. And you got Warhame, you got Septic, our favorite buddies in Septic, and Desolator, and Mass Distraction. Actually, a terrific event. This was really fun. This was great. And this whole thing about talking about Stockholm Thrashfest is meant to lead up to this. We had an intro for this show, and it goes something like this.
Peter, Simon och Jimmy, Marcus, Sterbhaus, nu kör vi!
So yeah, you probably recognize what that was. The whole thing was like, we were introducing the members as we were going up on stage. So as soon as you hear the first name, the first guy waves, and the second guy waves, walks up, and and by the last time, nu kör vi, which is said in the very last, that means basically let's do this thing. Yeah, that was obviously Ghost. I was supposed to have an episode about Ghost in Tales of the Vinyls, but I don't own one single vinyl or CD with Ghost, so it would have been a fun thumb picture, talking about thumb pictures earlier, but there I would have been like, I don't have one single album, but yeah, whatever. It's not like I'm a Ghost hater. I just don't really care that much. It doesn't bother me that they exist. It seems to bother a lot of people that they exist. I'm not bothered by Ghost. I'm not part of the hate crowd. I kind of admire them in a lot of ways because they certainly know what they're doing. I think I was one of the very first shows with Ghost. They played in Stockholm and it was opening for Watain, I think. And people were pitching Ghost to me all the time because I loved The Devil's Blood. And I loved The Devil's Blood. And they were like, you should probably like Ghost. So I was checking that out at that show, but it wasn't really my bag, so I didn't give it much thought. We can talk a little bit about intros. Now I sort of gave away the most funny story about intros, so everything I say about intros now is going to be super boring. But I mean, doing live shows, you always kind of have intros. Bands, you know, we have intros from soundtracks. We use that Inception. I was about to say insecticide. Inception intro. Every band used that intro. I think we were actually pretty early with it, so we didn't realize a lot of bands were using it. But you know, after 1 or 2 months, we started seeing other bands using it, so we didn't use it anymore. We used Klaus Heisler from American Dad, actually, once. We thought that was super fun. It's an epic speech.
Allow me to impress upon you the severe mistake you have made. For years my conduct has been largely benign, and yet, without provocation, you have severed our détente and forced me to unleash upon you the vengeful flames of 1,000 suns. You shall curse your mothers for the day of your birth. So go now! Go! And begin your life of fear, knowing that when you least expect it, the looming sword of Damocles will crash down upon you, cleaving you in twain. And as you gaze upon the smoking wreckage that was once your life, you will regret the day you crossed the wrong fish.
But, you know, when you're going to a show at a club and there's a band that's going to start playing soon, and in the speakers, you get this German-English voice that starts to tell some sort of story or speech or whatever, it didn't work out well. So we kind of ditched that as well. But we only did that Ghost intro once. It's super fun. I liked it. We're going to be talking about outros later on, so there you are.
Okej, jag flyttar på mig.
Du får testa för att flytta om det inte blir lika bra. Jo! Det behöver en tumstock. En trumstock.
Now, what you just saw was us preparing to record the drums. Let's check out the sleeve, of course. We have to hold it up and talk about new level of Malevolence. That video, little video snippet, yeah, you see Peter there. Unfortunately, he kind of, he had to leave in the middle of these sessions for various reasons. And was replaced by Erik Reyos, who was by this time available to join the band. But this is our rehearsal space. And we rented this space from a pizzeria. And just behind the drum set, you know, there's this daycare center. So we had to rehearse in the evenings, which we did. And weekends, there were no kids there. But every now and then they have these meetings, you know. And it was a total disaster. And the pizza guy just came running into our rehearsal space with beer in his hands. He was like, "I'm sorry, guys. They're having a meeting. I'm sorry," because we were kind of renting from him, and he was like, "Oh, I'm sorry. You can't make so much noise right now. Come and drink beer with me," and we did. Now we ended up in this rehearsal space because we kind of got kicked out on the previous one, which we shared with a Swedish all-female melodeath band. And I'm not going to say what band that was, but I think we sort of didn't, certain things happen. Let's say we like to party a lot and they didn't. And well, we weren't really welcome in the end, and we kind of wanted to get out of there anyway. So we ended up with a pizza guy. Actually, it's kind of funny because we moved from that rehearsal space you see in the video to that cellar in the middle of the recorded sessions of this album. We were tracking vocals and bass at another place, and we were actually putting the last vocals on Christmas Eve. And in Sweden, we actually celebrate Christmas on Christmas Eve. It's not Christmas Day. So we were tracking vocals on Christmas Eve, And then we got back, that was the very last day we could do that. And when we got back to the rehearsal space, we found out that we didn't have all the backing vocals. So I was doing the last backing vocals, you know, with mattresses and stuff were hanging over in my head, and everything was just in boxes everywhere. But it turned out great anyway. Now we can talk a little bit more about the artwork. And much like the previous album, I provided Gyula Havancak, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, with sketches, a couple of sketches, and he made this thing. And I know he likes this artwork a lot better than the one for Angels for Breakfast and God for Lunch. The thing is, I had sort of envisioned in my head something more akin color-wise to this album. You know, it was supposed to be more black and these eyes and this stuff. So when I got the sketch and it kind of looked like this, I was a little bit surprised first, you know. And this is for all you guys who think I'm a control freak hard ass, which I probably am in certain ways. But the thing is, I'm certainly open for suggestions. When I saw this, I was like, all right, it wasn't really kind of what I expected, but man, it looks really nice. So we went with this. I didn't say much about anything about the colors or anything like that. I just said I loved it. And I think this sleeve was done fairly fast. What actually took a little bit more time was the backside. And the backside here is kind of inspired by terrific artworks by other bands, such as the artwork for Psy. So I thought I'd just show that as reference. So here you got one of the best album covers ever made. And the cool thing is, up here you see the band logotype and the band name. It's on the sign on the streets. I absolutely love that stuff. And the album they released before that, you got the Psy logotype here in this sort of the cloth hanging from the trumpet. And this is actually fairly early work. We all know, I mean, everybody uses Elvira Madigan. That's his name, right? I think so. Everybody uses him these days. But I mean, he's really turned out a lot of terrific artworks, and those two are one of my favorites. So what the deal here is that, you know, the backside, all the titles are in, they're supposed to be a tree, actually. But he made this instead, which looks a little bit more like a warped body. And I kind of liked it as well. But we spend a lot of time trying to make this work. And again, it wasn't really kind of what I envisioned, but that doesn't matter. As long as we get a really super cool artwork, I'm all happy, you know. And I absolutely love this backside. It's almost even better than the front, to be completely honest. Totally love it. And the reason why we even came up with this is that we have a botched album title that we never used. But botched, do we even call it a botched? It's an unused album title, and that title is The Almighty Tree of Awesome Riffage. So now that I've name dropped that, and you want a cool title for your band's album, you can totally steal that. So there you are. That's Sterbhaus, New Level of Malevolence artwork. Now let's talk a little bit about videos, and because this is wow, we have a lot to talk about. Actually, I just realized I'm gonna have to take a pause and go and get some pictures and stuff. But anyway, let's go straight ahead into the videos we actually made. The first video we did for this was Crossed and Pissed and Devoured, and the second was Bloodbarf. But this wasn't certainly not the plan, and I'll tell you that. I'll tell you all about that after we just check out the videos a little bit.
It's a good match. levels of doom. When the machine of total intesticide runs, it runs on the hair of the top. Great, pure five of them.
So those were the two videos we released for New Level of Malevolence. But the plan was actually to release 2 more. And I'm going to tell you that story. But first, let's talk a little bit about Crossed and Pissed and Devoured, which actually should have been named Cross, Pissed and Devoured. I learned this like a couple of years after the album was released, but you learn a little bit of English every day, you know. So, well, the idea was to have Crossed and Pissed and Devoured released 2 months before the album was released. And on the album release date, we had intended to release a video for the title track. But, you know, there was a lot of scheduling conflicts and weird situations that kind of eventually made that impossible. So we had to postpone the Crossed and Pissed and Devoured video to be released at the same time as the album was. And the reason was, I mean, we had met Martin Strandberg, our favorite video maker ever, and we kind of decided that we wanted to only work with him. So, and we had done that, you know, absolutely Do Not Die video, and it was a terrific affair. We just felt like, okay, we found our guy and we're going to work with him. But his schedule was pretty goddamn full. And it's like that when you work within, you know, the film industry, or if you're an artist and anything cultural, basically, or anything related to entertainment, I guess. You can be just instantly whisked away across the world, and then you're away for a couple of months. And he had this schedule, and he saw that this is going to be difficult. So what we did was record a video without knowing what song it was going to be for. And the album wasn't even finished. So we went to Falun and recorded this video that eventually, of course, became Crossed and Pissed and Devoured. And the idea, I wanted to make something like, you know, Ingmar Bergman's The Seventh Seal, at least a little bit aesthetically, with the black and white and the doom gloomy kind of special feeling that you kind of get watching that. So that was the visual idea. And I had to have, you know, this concept of a video that worked regardless of what song we were going to pick. Now, we picked Crossed and Pissed and Devoured, not because any choice I made. Well, kind of, actually. It wasn't my first choice of a first video. I think it was maybe a little bit of a mistake to release that one. I love the song, don't get me wrong there, but as a first single for that album, maybe it wasn't such a good idea. But I know why we did it. And that was because Eric Rayos loved the song, and he really wanted that. And you have to remember that, you know, Eric helped us out on Angels for Breakfast and God for Lunch. And he wasn't ready to join the band. And then he really helped us out with the recording of New Level of Malevolence as well. And then he was kind of available to join the band. You can't recruit people, members, you know, and not have them provide any input or have any say about anything. And he really wanted that as a first video. So I was just like, okay, I'll sip it this time, and let's make Eric happy. And we released that one as a first single. Now, there's another reason I think that this song might have been a poor choice for a first single, and that is because Simon really couldn't play it. And I'm not saying this to cast any sort of bad light over Simon. Quite the contrary, actually, because Jimmy and I, we had painted ourselves into some weird corner where everything got trickier and trickier to play without realizing it. And we were so used to it, so whenever we had to teach someone else to play the stuff. It was basically impossible. So we never played Crossed and Pissed and Devoured live, I think. I'm not sure. We may have done it once, but no, I don't really know, actually. Now, Martin and I had been in pre-production for quite a long time for this new level of Malevolence video that was to take place in a church with me as a preacher. At this pulpit with a congregation of just kind of dark figures. You wouldn't see any faces. They would be dressed in like ghosts with black cloth and hoods and stuff like that. And I would, preach because I kind of felt like a new level of Malevolence was a preachy song. And so that was the general idea. And I would go down to this congregation eventually, and tell them how to live their lives and point out their shortcomings, which is mostly what all preachers do, except for having sex with young boys. Now, I had no intention of having sex with any young boys, but I was going to be a little bit frustrated in the video and, pull the hood off. And the face of that member in my parish would be a cabbage head with a carrot for a nose and 2 tomatoes as eyes. And so basically my parish would be vegetables. And I'd get even more mad and I'd slay them all with my spoon and fork. And eventually I'd exit that church with this huge salad bowl. It was a terrific idea. And we really needed a good church to film this in. Otherwise it kind of wouldn't work. And we had discussions with this priest or if it was the caretaker of the church. These old people who think Jesus is the shit. They're a little bit difficult to talk with sometimes. He didn't want us in their church, and eventually that idea was unfortunately then dropped. So that was that. And of course we did Bloodbarf later on, which got banned, and hopefully you know that story. When you do these kind of videos with a lot of blood and gore, and you got a bunch of people actually eating someone else, you just think it's kind of cool. You never ever think that anyone would be offended.
You need to pour me another one. You need to make sure I won't dry. You need to bully off of me anything, whether I'm cool or still stand tall.
Now that's 3 videos down. 2 of those got made. 1 didn't get made. So there's 1 left, right? Because I mentioned there were 2 unmade videos. And I'm a little bit sketchy here, actually, because I don't really remember if I really had such a huge master plan concerning this video. It was just some little, bug in my brain, a figment of my imagination and a dream to do an animated video, a cartoony video for the King of the Red. And I've always kind of envisioned that would be a cool idea because it's so cinematic, the slow-paced thing about the Olympics. And I love the topic. I mean, come on, the total hypocrisy of the Olympics. The total lack of accountability regarding what countries they actually hold the Olympics. If the country is involved in genocide at the moment, it doesn't seem to matter that much. But as soon as something neat happens in the wake of an Olympic game, they're super fast to take credit for that. So I thought it was a great idea to do a cartoon video for it. But I kind of never came around to actually realize anything about it. By the time I was thinking more about it, I think I was out playing with Shining probably. So I sort of rekindled that idea about, this, I don't know if you saw it, there's this fly flying around there. Yeah, and I see it now. Damn flies. Sorry. The thing is, I rekindled that idea and I felt like, okay, I really want to make this video. And I started doing paintings. And I had this concept, I had all these graphic ideas. And doing a cartoon video is not like you can paint your picture and that's that. What I did was, if I wanted a character to move his arms, you sort of have to, of course, paint that torso separately, and then you paint the arms separately. So the paintings look a little bit funny, but they're absolutely beautiful. I just found them a couple of weeks ago because I kind of forgotten about it. And I was like, maybe I should have done this video. And I'm going to show you the pictures. Now, why didn't it get made eventually? Well, the thing was, I think I finished most of the artworks. By that time, we really started working more on the album, Next of Kin to Chaos. So I had to put that aside because it felt like I don't want to delay the album to put out a video for a song that's 100 years old. Or for a previous album. It just felt weird. We needed to focus on the new music. So, I think I covered most of it. Let's see if I can show you some pictures then. Pictures. Here we go. So here is a torso, basically, like I mentioned. Here you got it, and you got some tails and stuff like that. And you see that the arms, they kind of stop here. So I have to paint the other arms somewhere else. Here we got this awesome, Undertaker character, which I actually kind of had this morphing thing, the idea of morphing Putin's face into that one. I toyed around with that and it looked pretty horrible in a good way. Horrible in a good way. So here we go. Actually, having shown that, this is the axe and the hands, then of course, that go on to that Undertaker character. We got a sweet little skeleton here. This will all make sense once I show you the kind of finished pictures, because I assemble that in Photoshop later on. This is the ground he stands on. Here's another skeleton. And another skeleton. This one I'm going to show you is actually a remnant from inner sleeve ideas for New Level of Malevolence as an album, and not really intended for the video. It was also something I worked with together with an artist local in Stockholm, but what we came up with wasn't really at all what I was looking for, so it didn't really happen. So my picture here is basically kind of what I was thinking about. And as you can see, it's like holding up t-shirts, isn't it? As you can see, you got the baby here, that's from the sleeve, and that's the skeleton, then of course, sort of demonic thing going on. Yeah, so that's that. And here is the King of the Red, with a sort of mock video. I'm not going to do the whole thing, where they're moving around and stuff. So this is just everything assembled in Photoshop together with the song.
put him in the box. This Russian fox with furry chest and gun and ship him off to hunt the lost hiding neath a rainbow. There he will find the answer only he is looking for. Kill all the red ability. Mustaches, shoot him dead. With bolted doors and off the wall. In the shadow of a self-made idiot born from underneath the wishful thinking of a third world war. While pencil pushing at the...
Now, I kind of want to tell a story about Bloodbarf, because this was something I had intended to include in the Bloodbath episode. There was supposed to be a Tales of the Vinyls about Bloodbath. Well, Simon Olofsson, he was a wonderful and hilarious, and is a wonderful and hilarious character. And he's really lazy when it comes to speaking English. He don't like to lisp. You know that sound. So it becomes kind of hilarious when you talk bands with him. Bands like Opeth becomes Opeth. Amon Amarth becomes Amon Amarth. And Bloodbath becomes Bloodbath. And from Bloodbath, we kind of heard Bloodbarf. And that's why we have a song called Bloodbarf. So are we done talking about New Level of Malevolence? I think so. Let's head straight on to Krampusnacht, which is actually a PR trick. It was never intended to be, released as an album, really. It was relating to, we're not finished with New Level of Malevolence. Anyway, but yeah, due to that whole situation that happened and we completely lost momentum, we couldn't do anything. So we felt like, okay, let's release a video. That was Bloodbarf or Bloodbath. And it was banned. And then we thought, well, okay, let's film a show and release that video footage professionally filmed. And it took really long time to get that out. I'm getting to that, of course, in a little while. And then we were like, we weren't ready to go into the studio, we weren't ready to whip up 10 new terrific songs just like that and forget all about New Level of Malevolence. But what we did was we had kind of fun rehearsing and some really kooky riffs that Jimmy came up with. And when I heard those, it was like, man, it really sounds Christmassy. So how about we do a Christmas EP that's digital, and it's only released digital and it's free every December. So it was kind of a PR trick. I thought it was a really cool idea, but no one thought that yet again. It's like I'm the master of poor ideas, it seems. Because everyone's like, oh, you should have released it as an album, especially, promoters and stuff like that. But they failed to see that we really still wanted to focus on our last album. And this one, even though it's absolutely terrific and all that, it was intended as something just of a little bit of sidetrack. And as I'm seeing this now, this is kind of fun to see. You have Krampusnacht here, and I did the design for this, and I thought it was a really good idea to put that larger than the rest of the titles. But apparently everyone who reads this thinks that Santa Claus in Satan's Claus is the first song. So yeah, it's a PR trick. And the version here that's released, it's not actually the same version that was released digitally. At least, well, the title track is a re-edited and remixed version. And let me tell you about that story. Because when we recorded this thing as a PR trick, yet now I said it was a PR trick about 1 million times, so now you know that. It was a little bit difficult. Jimmy and I were always co-producing, and to be completely honest, Jimmy was in a fairly strange personal place at that point, so I felt I had to give him space, and I couldn't really push as much maybe as I wanted to. And besides, it was supposed to be a kind of a funny thing we were releasing. It wasn't supposed to be part of our discography, really. It was a PR, yeah, I was about to say PR trick again. But so I kind of didn't bother too much about, pushing for perfect takes all the time. But when we released that, I always had this knot in my belly. I just felt like, man, I don't like releasing stuff that I don't think is, if not perfect, then at least as great as it could ever have been. And actually, we used another guy to mix this one, which is Jocke Skog from a band called Clawfinger. So yeah, the physical release of this came about only by the time we decided to end Sterbhaus. And I figured there were three things I wanted to happen, and the first one was going to be the physical release of this one. Now, first of all, I certainly wanted that knot in my belly to be removed. And the best way to remove that was to go back into the studio and check all the stuff we had recorded, and see if I could find takes that I could use and edit and make this more into something that I thought was a lot better. And thankfully, I found a lot of stuff and could re-edit, and this song was remixed then by Ronny Björnström, who had a grueling task to try to sort of make something that sounded a lot like the Jocke Skog mixer, so it feels coherent, It's not like you want a completely new mix. But he did a great job. And, the reason why I even wanted this to be physically released in the first place is because of the artwork, and only because of the artwork. Now, that artwork is made by the absolutely stellar Canadian artist named Gerald Brom. And for anyone who's interested, in fantasy arts or stuff like that, you most certainly know this guy. And he's very well known for having painted, the first the Diablo 2 video game art, that cover of the video game, and also the Lilith character from Diablo 4 is from his hand. Once I saw this picture of Krampus, it was kind of my dream to have it as the artwork for the Krampusnacht EP. Now, of course, that artwork isn't made for us. It's not commissioned. It is licensed because he had already released a book called Krampus. But the interesting thing here is that my relationship with Gerald Brom goes way back to Elvira Madigan. Elvira. That sounded Scottish, didn't it? Almost. Elvira Madigan. And this album, which was the last one I did. Now, I'm going to be 100% honest here, because I only used, Luis Rojo art. And I was happy sticking with that. See if I got the other one as well. Here we got that one. Now I showed them all. And those are all women who doesn't wear a lot of clothes. And even though that was kind of the sign of the times, I cringe a little bit. The thing is, I really wanted to use another artist when I was starting Elvira Madigan. And I'm going to show you what artist that was. It was the amazing Brian Froud with his fairy arts. And let me just show you some pictures. It's molto bene. The thing is, I wrote Brian Froud and his agency, and they don't license to music at all. So I wrote a few other artists, and Luis Rojo, he was available to license work from. Now, I mean, the first album I licensed, I absolutely loved that, so I certainly didn't regret that. But then you get stuck thinking about, okay, I need to stick with this artist. But by the time I made that last album, which is Regency, I really kind of didn't want to use this art anymore. And I really wanted to use Gerald Brom. So I wrote him explained this whole concept album thing and this intricate story that is featured in the Regency album. And he was really interested. And he was like, oh, tell me more and all that. And eventually it didn't happen because having commissioned someone to basically paint like 5, 6 or 7 paintings. Wow, I didn't have the wallet for that, and I don't think the label had either. But I made sure we had some sort of contact still. I sent him albums every now and then. And when it came to releasing Krampusnacht, it was a total go from the start.
Your time cometh, so I take the bait. I trust the tree and trust each other for another fate. But no, there's no escaping. I'll be host to the Christmas demon scratching on my window post. Certain knock upon my door. Break the man in the flesh, man to the bone. It's time to take the pain, the wick, second chain. Cause I know one night is worth the gain. That which I'm judging for 364 days doing everything I wish I'd more.
Now, I did have a video idea for Krampusnacht, which was never realized, and I don't think it was, I didn't have the intention of realizing it. It was supposed to be this drunken, inappropriate Santa Claus in the winter of Stockholm, behaving like a total slob and just drinking, and hopefully drinking for real. That would be cool, you know, getting wasted, not just for show. But then again, it felt like we kind of did that with Absolutely Do Not Die. Milder version without the Santa Claus, of course. Anyway, let's get on to the next album. That will be the 4th and last album. That is Necrostabbing at Göta Källare. Our fantastic live album. And it's a gatefold, thanks to some brilliant photography. I don't remember top of my mind right now who they are, so I'm probably going to put them in the text here so you can see that. Terrific. It's fantastic to have done a live album, and it's almost one of the albums I'm the most proud of because it makes the whole discography of Sterbhaus so much more important, having done a live album, and a really great live album. It was an album never intended. Because, like I mentioned a few times, you know, we did that show and filmed that show only to have something else than people just filming in the crowd from their smartphones. And what we got was, you know, filmed with 7 cameras or something like that, and professionally recorded the audio as well. The thing is, when you got that much video footage and you want to do something decent with it, it takes a lot of time. It also takes a lot of time if your laptop computer can't pull the weight. It certainly couldn't pull the weight because I was living in the rehearsal space by the time I got this footage, and I was editing on this. I don't think it was a really crappy laptop. It was just completely destroying itself out of heat. So my solution for that was actually whenever I had to do something that really needed a lot of processor power, wow, me and computers, you know, I had to put the laptop in the fridge, no, not the freezer, the fridge, while it was exporting material, because otherwise they would completely just shut down and die. So there were a couple of instances Jimmy went into the rehearsal space and we were supposed to do something, and he went directly to the fridge to pick up food or pick up a beer, and there was the computer exporting video footage, and then we got the whole thing mixed professionally, and we were like, it feels so not worth it to just put it out and waste it. Like I mentioned for Krampusnacht, 3 things needed to happen with Sterbhaus once we decided to quit. This is the second thing, and that was actually to release the video footage. That was the priority, but when it was obvious that I needed to do something decent with this audio, I'm happy to say we released this live album. And the thing is, which is can be debatable, whether it was smart to actually include all the talking and all the pauses. I kind of wanted this album to sound exactly like a show. Whenever you buy live albums, they usually cut that out, all the talking in between the songs, and if there are pauses and stuff. But I felt like, man, this is how we sound live, so let's keep it. But I can sort of understand that if you're not Swedish speaking, then it becomes a weird experience. But it is fantastic to hear Sterbhaus live like this. Now, regarding the artwork for this album, here it is again. It just goes up and down like this all the time, huh? And then you got the backside here as well with, what was his name? It was Paule Bloomberg, huh? So I kind of made that myself. The initial idea was actually to have all the stage props photographed. So I had Martin Strandberg and a photographer named Asse Viljanen come over to my apartment. I had built this up, and we had Helmut the Goathard, the goat guitar from Whippersnapper, and Frog Boiler, actually. They photographed this, and they photographed all the stage props and all that stuff. But in the end, it kind of didn't turn out like I intended. So I made this other kind of sleeve for the album. Now, and here's the big thing. Talking about sleeves, I get to show another book. And if you haven't checked out And Justice for Art, this is And Justice for Art live. These publications are awesome. Any metalhead should actually have them. It's Ramon Oscuro is the author of all these. And it's stories about album sleeve covers, and album art. You got Slayer as well, and since this is only live albums, we made it. There we go. And for little Sterbhaus in Stockholm to actually rub shoulders with these greats is amazing. It's such an honor that we should probably go out on that. I don't think I have that much else to talk about, having shown that. And if you haven't checked out And Justice for Art, get those books. I have another one, but we're not in it. No, we're not. Promised in the beginning of this episode that I'd show you what Tales of the Vinyls I had planned to do, but that won't happen. So let's go through the list, I suppose. Here we go. Now, we can't very well end things like that. That would be super boring. What an anticlimax. So I thought I'd include something really nice, and that would be an outro. We had a terrific outro from Kurt Olsson. If you're Swedish, you know probably what this is. And if you're 100 years old, you know what this is. He translated these songs that were already translated. They were translated into Swedish and were always sung by women. Mostly Siv Malmqvist is the woman who sang this, as far as I understand. And he sang them, and he didn't translate them. So if the song was about a dude called Janne, then yeah, Kurt Olsson sang about Janne too, and that was fun. So on this album, this CD, I don't own it on vinyl, obviously. There's a song called Kyss Me, Honey, Honey, Kiss Me, which is Kiss Me, Honey, Honey, Kiss Me, probably the original title. The thing is, he sings this pretty sloppily, or I have really bad hearing, or probably both. We always thought he said, Kiss me, Harry, Harry, kiss me, which we thought was super fun. And we included that on as an outro whenever we played a show. And to tell a story that relates to this, I have to take you to Berlin and the opening night on the Shining tour where Sterbhaus was opening as a support act. This was, of course, before I joined Shining. And we met the guys for the first time this day. The sound check put that outro on while we exited stage as an opening act. And it was just before Shining was supposed to go on. And Nicholas forbade us to use that again, which I find super weird and ironic, having gotten to know him later on. But then again, that's just the kind of stuff people do to establish hierarchy, I suppose. So he didn't want us to use that. Now you can listen to Kyss Me, Harry, Harry, Kyss Me, or Kiss Me, Honey, Honey, Harry, Harry, I don't know, as much as you want with Kurt Olsson. I actually recommend it. But I'm not going to include that. What I am going to include is a weird country cowboy song I did. And I think I did it a really long time ago. It might have been pre-Sterbhaus. I actually don't remember. I showed this song to Jimmy, and he loved it. And he said, we should totally use this as an outro from now on. Now, that idea was spawned shortly before we said we'd end Sterbhaus. So we never used this song as an outro. And I find that really sad. So as we're ending this episode, and it's probably going to be like a farewell for Sterbhaus from my part, at least, because I'm not going to do a 1.5 hour again about me saying goodbye, thanking everybody or whatever. I'm just going to say, well, thanks for watching Tales of the Vinyls. And for anybody who supported Sterbhaus, well, thank you. And you're welcome for all the absolutely terrific metal we brought to the table. I really hope you don't forget about us. Keep us in your playlists or whatever you do. And if you play vinyls, keep them on the front row of your vinyl collection and play them every now and then. It would make me very happy. Yeah, so here it is. I thought we'd end this on a high note. Here is The Devil's Wind.
In the desert of the Wild West, when a little boy was I, Mama bought me a 6-shooter, and she taught me to aim and fire. And I rode into the ground with the devil's wind in my hair, and my mama knew I was born to ride. And we'll travel from far away to my dry little hometown. They all wanted a piece of me, they pop up from all around. With a gun barrel at sight,